I come to a lot of conclusions, and there's a great overlap between my work, what I do, and what I find in my as in my profession as a creative director, and things that are and things that are applicable on my more of private creative processes. To a small brief thing that I found out. I've been currently remaking the PowerPoint template on SKF, and totally changed it. And I did it with the concept of system does matter. I mean, the way you make a template affects the way content is presented.
I see. Okay.
And but I'm not going on a really long. But in that process, I got to view a lot of my co-workers and other employees PowerPoints that they worked in, because it's actually I don't know if it's the same in academia, but it's the format that are taking over, that everyone is using. My great finding was that I find myself in the same position I've done for years. It's that people are constantly, especially when it comes to PowerPoint, but they still cram a lot of content into each slide. Mm-hmm. That seems to be a global problem. Mm-hmm. And it actually, it's a problem of all kinds of education and communication.
Absolutely.
People are so my first question was why my first thing was, okay, it has to do to some part with the system. You have a kind of a template that allows you to do that. But then I also had one great epiphany. And this is where this ends, actually. It was that people use PowerPoint as their kind of creative media when they're trying to empty their brain and find out what is this project. Mm-hmm. What am I? For example, if you're trying to do a virtual conference, then you use PowerPoint directly to empty all the things you can come out, and that makes the content that you have in that first PowerPoint, it's extremely detailed, and it's not the same that you're going to present.
Correct. And that's one thing that I talk about, is that when I work with somebody, I don't want them to talk about their final presentation. I'm actually not interested in their book. I'm not interested in their, or when we talk about that will be very far down the line.
Yeah.
So I think what you're talking about too is that a person can be trapped, and especially in role playing, are you explaining the rules? Are you presenting them, which is very different? Presenting the rules, you do this, you do this, you do this. You're instructing. Or are you explaining them so that the person understands everything about them as you go? Or are you trying to sell them and convince people that this is good?
Yeah.
Right? And if you try to do all of those at once, it's not a readable document. It just
especially when you're trying to sell, as you say, is a very fishy.
Right.
And it's not a very good way to because then you presume that they don't want this, and you have to persuade them
for yourself. Yes.
So, I mean,
and if you look at it, I mean, it sounds as though that would be something any ordinary, reasonable person would avoid doing. But then if you look at role-playing text, you will discover that there are a horrible mix of all these things. So anyway, go on.
My conclusion was that you cannot present. You cannot go up 2 days later and present to your project team the things that the document that is actually your brain emptied out on a. So you have to turn it around and see, okay, what do they want to know, and how do I present it and I mean, you can have some kind of thumb rules that people will probably only remember 10% of what you're saying, and you have to decide what 10% they really need to know.
I completely agree about that. Yeah.
And so that, and then I realized, and this is the actual epiphany, is that this applies to my own game text. My rules for the game that I've been working on for 2 years now is actually my brain emptied out, and it's actually new things added to a completely chaotic document. Every time after each play test, I add new things and I try, and it's a kind of a boiling, creative, massive, organic mass of text. And
at the moment, that's not that bad a thing, as long as that is what it is.
No,
right.
It's not. But if I, because it's starting to, because I kind of realized that the game are starting to come. I mean, there's certain things that I'm quite happy about. I will not change them that much. And some parts is what it is. It's kind of, I mean, it can be changed for something else, but I will keep it until it's there. And some parts are still in a kind of an experimental. We have to test this. Does it solve any problem? And so I started going through on a completely different way. I did that. I started building a structure that was much more from not a selling point of view, but and kind of the way I think you should explain something from the top concept down to the nitty-gritty details.
Yes.
And while doing that and just moving things over and simultaneously looking at your the posts that you and all the things that you, I mean, I am familiar to all the things that, because I've read it before, and but now this all came down, and then I realized, okay, I think we need to spend some time with this. This is where it all came. This is why we have this arrangement.
You and I can have a conversation about games anytime we want. Right?
Yeah.
This has to be a focused benefit.
Yeah,
so my
exactly.
plan is that I would like to begin, given what you've mentioned before about intuitive continuity and things like that, and authorities. I want you to have in your mind those points that you mentioned that right now seem to you to be fixed. Things that you are very happy with. This is bedrock for the game. This is the, whatever else changes at this point, I see these things as fundamental. And so I'm asking questions about them, not to challenge them, but by saying, okay, these are the fundamentals. So I have some specific questions that I want to ask about them, so that then your decisions about what else to do start to take shape, and you can tell what belongs with them and what does not.
It's very hard for me to see what is again. I mean the concept of killing darlings.
I'm
what
not going
is
to
a
do
darling?
that right now. I understand.
No, but if you, I mean, I have, I myself see that when I have to have some kind of rule set for myself when I decide to keep something.
Absolutely, yeah.
If is it because I've spent a lot of time and not got it, it's not working. I want it to work.
Right.
Is that why I'm keeping it? That's maybe not a good. Or does it actually work in play and produce results?
And get over it, put a bow on it, and be happy. Right.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, at this point, I think that we are not going to know the difference. But at the moment, the interesting thing about the kill your darlings principle is that it leads people to doubt everything.
Yeah.
And that is not productive. I
No.
think that that is a statement made. Remember, that is made by a professional with many published works already.
Yeah.
And so that means that he is not even thinking about the early processes of making things,
No.
right? He's thinking about what you do with it when it's almost done.
Yeah.
And so it's not worthwhile advice for somebody who's just beginning a project.
No.
It's parallel.
This is not. No. This is a pretty far gone project.
Well,
I would
okay,
say.
in some ways,
So,
but it's still in that stew pot. It is still in that mess of brain emptying, and so from a design
okay.
perspective, from a design
From my
perspective, you're still at the
perspective,
beginning, I think. So let's
I,
take a look.
maybe we have to see.
Okay.
Um,
Can I
the-
please ask you to tell me some or all of the things that right now seem to you very fixed, very good, in place, and you want to keep them? What are they?
Okay, I have to start. Let me present. Imagine a model, a kind of a pyramid, where this is a concept that I've been working with mentally, so I kind of know what is the difference between my game and a traditional game. And you have played one early iteration of it, and it's basically the same now. But if we have the pyramid, where at the top we have the actual game, and that's the rules and most commonly also the setting and the genre and all those fixed stuff that both players and game master can agree upon is the framework. And below that, on the mid level, we have the adventure, the scenario that you're trying to do, and on the bottom level you have actual play. That's what's actually happening on those three conceptual levels, so to say. And traditionally, we all know how it is. You have the game, and and in the old days, you also bought the adventures, and then you played, and you could also agree on the rules. You could have and stuff like that. What my game is that it's still a game, a set of rules for storytelling, but the actual adventure comes in a card pack with 10 cards. And it's not an actual, it's not a plot, it's not even bangs. It's like story elements.
I get it. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So that
rules
part,
setting,
that's
so the
if you
first one is
change
almost
that,
like a little rule book, and then you have these 10 cards. Go
Yeah.
ahead.
and these 10 cards, they in themselves are a kind of a micro universe of premise, genre, and all those stuff that you have, and all those that card set contains that one. And I have I have many different card sets that I've play tested, and that concept, that's a one concept. And
I see what you're saying about there's the basic rules, you have the 10 cards, and that the 10 cards, as you described a few minutes ago, are many, many framing, conceptual, orienting features of what we will play, and that every pack is a little bit different in terms of system.
No, not exactly. Some in some ways there are differences. But there are, especially on the content side. But the rule set are basically the same.
Okay.
It's basically the same, depending on, because there are no. I mean, the rules connected to conflict resolution, etc., and that part are not very nitty-gritty into the details. There's no magic rules for it, or melee combat or something like that. It's very